Good morning.
Good morning.
What's the date?
16th of March.
I should know that by heart. Chrissy's birthday is tomorrow.
Yes.
So she celebrates her birthday the entire month of March, St. Patrick's Day.
She does. A little bit less as the years are going by.
For obvious reasons. For obvious reasons. So happy birthday, sister. So service magic. I like this topic because while we were writing it, you look around and you start to think about, what is that? What does that mean? I mean, we also, I think just what happened with United Airlines, God bless them this week. Number one, they had a dog put up in the overhead bin. And then this morning it was reported that
The dog went to Tokyo.
Yeah, one dog went to Tokyo and the other one went to Kansas City, and they were switched, and the family had to wait. Poor United Airlines. They've got
Not to mention poor puppy.
Well, and they've got some recovery to do, but that's not creating magic. And how could they have prevented it? The families say, we're hoping this will never happen again. Well, how it's not going to happen again is better systems and better focus and a better commitment to making sure you do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when you think about the word magic, I looked this up and I thought, I just want to see what the first words are. And I loved it because magic is unexpected because you don't know what's going to happen. It's fascinating because you wonder how they do that. It's captivating. You're sucked into great magic. It's charming. That was my favorite word. That's why I highlighted it in red. And it's glamorous and it's enchanting and it's spellbinding and magnetic and irresistible. Wonderful adjectives to be used about your business. If someone says, I went to this salon and it was charming, or it was so enchanting from the time I got there to the time I left. It was spellbinding, every detail I wanted for nothing, and it was absolutely wonderful. And that's what we're going to talk about today, because unfortunately, or fortunately, when you have bad service, that resonates, right?
Well, and please understand that when we're talking about service magic, there's so much talked about and written about right now. Companies are trying to accentuate what they call user experience, customer experience.
We've been saying that for
CX,
years, right?
CX and UX and all these different
Gen X.
adjectives to talk about how do we make it better for our guests. And the cool thing about the salon industry is, in particular, is that while certainly there are technological advances and breakthroughs and things that are making the guest experience better, but most of what makes the guest experience better are people.
Always.
It's the hairdresser, it's your stylist, it's the people touching the guest. And it always has been that way, and we believe it always will be that way. But that touching the guest in a different way, increasing the guest experience while they're in the salon, ties back to intent. What's your intent? What's the team's intent? This morning, just before we went on, I got a message that there's a salon cutting loose owned by Carol and Taylor Please. And they are sitting right now in a staff meeting training with our Matters CDs. And they are very intentional as a team at increasing their guest experience. It's not sometimes we think about it and sometimes we do it. It's all the time.
It's intentional. And it's certainly not casual. What my worry about creating magic service and talking about these adjectives here to describe it is that the people side of relations is lessening. So therefore, how are you going to do all this if the people, the ability to connect is becoming less? And I've said this before. I mean, Emma said it again last night. I said, I'm tired. Same. I mean, she wanted, one word, not, Mommy, I'm tired too. Are you going to bed now? No, same. And that was it. Just one word conversation. And texting and technology is creating disconnect versus connect, I believe.
Well, and
did you see the post I made yesterday?
Which one? Was it about Medina?
No.
Okay.
Okay, but it could have been. The post was yesterday. Someone sent it to me and said, I thought of you when I saw this. You know, Facebook friends, 1,200, such and such likes, 80, such and such. Family time, 0. And it said, make sure you're looking at the right things.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was very, very powerful.
Well, it's funny. In fact, I'm going to look up right now because I posted one that had a very similar message just the day before yesterday, I think. Oh boy, okay, keep going, Terry.
That's all right. So, magical moments. How are we going to create the unexpected? How are we going to provide that? How are we going to create a glamorous experience for them where it is very easy and enjoyable? And I can tell you every day. I mean, I want to tell you something that happened last week. I had a taste for red velvet cake. And I said, I have a taste for red velvet cake. And I was going to go to, what's it?
I have a taste for red velvet cake every day.
Is it Bundt cake? What's the place called?
Nothing Bundt cake.
Nothing. And it's so good. I mean, it's so good. So I said, okay, I'm going to run in there. They close at 7. It was 7, probably 15 seconds past 7 o'clock. And I went up to the door and they wouldn't make eye contact with me. So I stood there for a second, like, seriously, are you kidding me? It's 15 seconds after 7. And you know what she yelled out to me? We've already closed the registers down at 15 after 7. So that means they were closing before they closed.
Yeah.
Right?
It also means they'd rather have stale cake than make one more sale today.
So that's not creating a magical moment. And I can remember when I was with Steak and Ales, we had a rule that a guest could come in 10 minutes after we closed and still be taken into the dining room, which was unusual because most businesses want to honor the close time more than they want to create a relationship and a loyal fan. And I got back in the car and you were in your car and you said, where's the red velvet cake? And I said, they closed. Mm-hmm. And you knew I was irritated just by the way I said it. But the lady didn't even know what she said. You can't balance a drawer in 15 seconds. Right? Registers are closed. We already balanced. We're done. And I should have said, so you started closing before you closed. I should have yelled that in there. Her head's not in the right place. Her head's not in the right place to serve.
Well, the thing that you identified, quite honestly, is she obviously wasn't the owner.
Oh, yeah.
The owner would have sold the cake.
That's right. The owner would have said, come on in. But the employee decided to say, closing is more important than reputation.
Well, and you know what? This comes back. At the top of the slide, there is, what is a magical moment? I think if you remember last month, we talked about a book that we're very fond of right now, which is The Power of Moments. And I think that a lot has to do in business and with that intention of identifying what are those potential moments that our team collectively can accentuate and make magical.
Or that they're responsible for, right? Mm-hmm. That was her responsibility to say, come on in. How can we help? I don't care if they say, look, we already balanced the drawers. Take this one on us. We'll see you soon.
Absolutely.
Something. But don't let that guest walk away disappointed. And they could have created something that allowed me to probably show up at 7 o'clock every time. Just kidding. But they could have created a raving fan right at that moment. And instead, the opposite happened. And I was very, very disappointed in her decision making. So when you look at, this isn't me. I'm trying to move up the slide. There we go. So when you're magical, I think about, God, that was magical. That dinner was sensational. They were magical together as a team. And the words that are used, of course, is my mom's favorite one is
marvelous.
Marvelous. Oh my gosh, it was marvelous. She says marvelous all the time. But wonderful, excellent, admirable. And you must talk about it. You don't have a choice, whether it's a dinner or the first time we went to a movie theater that allowed you to actually order a dinner and dine during the movie and they served you at your seat. There's ways that you can create it and you have to talk about it. But even that company decided, Oh, that's too expensive now. We're not getting you the return, so we'll just give you popcorn at your seat again. So,
Well,
a great idea can.
I think again,
lose its
let's
punch.
think about it from a salon standpoint. Could They Are Magical Together be spoken about, the relationship between our front desk and our team?
Mm-hmm.
Could it be spoken about between the team of stylists and the group of assistants or partners that are working with them? Is there a chemistry? Is there an intended chemistry that takes place that says everybody in this building is about my experience and making it better and making it more enjoyable?
Well, and I think that's fair. And I can tell you, if you're going to pull that off, I mean, where is it most obvious? You can see that these conversations, and this is where I want to spend a little time. When you go to the theater and people are walking out of the theater together after a play or a musical or even a movie, people are saying, that was great. Wow, wasn't that good? Can you believe that ending? Oh, that was a twist. So the arts.
Mm-hmm.
And what is really amazing about the arts, especially live performances, and even how long it takes to produce a film, how much time is spent on the rehearsal.
Mm-hmm.
How much time is put into rehearsals, then dress rehearsals, and soft rehearsals, and full-blown, we're doing it.
Then even certain scenes, the number of times they reshoot the scene over and over and over again.
Until they get it right.
To get it right.
Well, Olympians, the hours of effort, the hours of practice, they learn to work together. If it's a team, but an individual, all the effort that's involved, none of that happens by accident. And we all are drawn to it. You look at professional sports and athletes. I mean, I can remember watching the Cleveland Indians in the last couple of years and really coming together as a team, or even when the Cubs were playing, it wasn't an ego team. It was really a team that worked together, and it was enjoyable to watch. It was magical. And I think I posted, well, that was magical tonight to watch. So they have a playbook, they have their training camps, and they learn to work together. It's all by rehearsal, and it's by design. So when people want to be considered magical, it's in business, it's by design, and you have to learn to work together. How does my dialogue complement? Even though I can communicate with you just through looking at you and nodding, which is okay sometimes, but there's times a customer needs to see us communicate. Mm-hmm. And watch us communicate and watch what takes place. And so when you think about watching what's happening in the salon, I mean, you can tell when the wheels are off. Everyone's running late. I mean, you certainly had an emotional day, the day that you had a super service day and 100 and some guests. I mean, what was that like that day?
Electric.
But you prepared for it, mm-hmm. Right? Why is the effort for 40 people different mentally than the effort for 170?
And you know what? It's true wherever you go.
Always.
I mean, I will sometimes be a 3-visit-a-day Starbucks person, and I can tell you that it's a different experience later in the evening around 8:30 than it is 8:30 in the morning. It's the same coffee, it's the same registers, it's the same drive-up windows. It's not
the same pace.
But it's not the same service. It's not the same experience. And so, is that true in our salon? Mm-hmm. We say first guest of the day, last guest of the day, every guest, every time. What's your way? What's your intention? And is it the same? Is it a consistent? Can we hold our energy as a team up all the way through? Sports, they always talk about 40 minutes or 60 minutes or a group of 5-minute intervals. How do we keep that going?
My favorite stat is the first time you told me is the amount of points that are scored in a football game in the last 2 minutes of the first half and the last 2 minutes of the second half. It was alarming to me.
It's an amazing.
It must be that the urgency or the adrenaline or something just has to kick in.
It's the urgency. It's that the half will end and the game will end. Those are the things that motivate.
So where's ours?
Well, what is it?
Right?
Is it the end of every guest interaction? That's generally, if you stop and think of it, if it is at the end of every guest interaction, that's usually when
We're talking about
our
rescheduling.
team, that's when we should be talking about rescheduling,
Take
asking for people to buy the products that we used and asking them for referrals and so on. But generally, that's also the part that gets skipped. That's the part that gets overlooked in the name of good guest service because we want to move on to the next guest. The reality is,
we're not done.
those are the last 2 minutes of the half. Those are the last 2 minutes of the game. And if we take our attention off that guest, we can do everything right up until that moment. But we're not going to create that experience. They're not going to get the full meal deal, so to speak, if we don't stay with it all the way until we're done, until we're finished. That's your time to shine. And if we know that other people and other salons struggle in that area, and we can be better, we can make that a moment.
So how do we become better closers? How can we become better 2-minute players? Because you're right, not only is it every guest has a 2-minute, what do they call it in football?
2-minute warning.
2-minute warning. Every guest has a 2-minute warning too, right? These are my last 2 minutes. I need to bring it up a notch. My last 2 minutes with that guest are critically important to the operation of the business and our reputation. Sometimes they think when they take the cape off, they're done, right? So how do we do that? And it's by design and working together, and we have to put those systems and standards in place. How is this done? Excuse me. Well, it's scripted, it's rehearsed, know your marks, and how to make adjustments. I think that I can remember being in musicals and stuff, and there'd be a little X out there, and I knew, that's my mark. And you're not allowed to look at it, but you have to look for it. So you'd have to find your place where you have to be. And I can remember even when Johnny Carson was on, his mark was always big X right there. You're coming out, and here's your spot. That wasn't done by accident. So what are our marks in business? What are our marks during the close? What are our marks when we're walking up to the front desk? Usually that still is very, very weak in the salon. It's not natural. It's awkward.
And it's not consistent.
Oh, and so both make a mess, right? Both make a mess. So how do we do that and say, we are going to say this. These are the 4 things we have to say at the 2-minute warning, right? And I like the 2-minute warning versus the 2-minute plan, right? Because this warning has got to get someone's attention. Because when we know that great hairdressers create loyalty when they have these disciplines in place, right? When it's casual, their turnover is higher, their guest count is higher because people can't get in or aren't rescheduled. And it's a come see me when you need me versus this is when I need to see you, right? There's a big difference. So how do we make adjustments? To shock the customer, I love these because some people, we've talked about these and they've been present for years, but some people still don't do them. And you're doing the extraordinary things that others make ordinary. When Robert Cromings launched the wash house, I don't think he knew how big it was going to be, right? How am I going to make the guest's favorite part what we're known for here, right?
Sure.
And so what they did is it took a shampoo, which is ordinary, and they turned it into a wash house, which had an opening ritual, closing ritual, and became their signature service with all different other options. It wasn't just a shampoo any longer. There's people still not doing this.
You know what? I mean, I think back to what Gino has said in the past. Anything that's easy to do is easy not to do.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes it's like you and I talked about Sonia at Hollywood Hair, her concierge program. She's been doing it now for over a year. She's been talking about how successful it's been and how excited she is about it. We've been talking about it, and yet there are very few people. I can't think of one other salon that has implemented it to date.
I think a concierge where you have your front desk staff equipped with an iPad, walking the salon floor at all times, rescheduling, talking about take home, communicating with the guests, multiple relationships. The admin side looks more elegant, looks more polished, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a weird thing about that service desk up front, and that's that it's almost like a little fort.
Yes.
that creates
It's a hiding
safety.
place. Well,
I
it's a
can be
hiding
behind it.
place.
It's between me and the guest. When you take that person that's behind that desk and bring them out into the service floor and get them involved, first of all, their job is more fun. It goes faster. It's additional service. It's one more set of eyes and hands
Right.
and abilities to serve the guest. I love the dialogue that says, what take-home products have you recommended, and what can we have ready for you at the desk when you check out?
Oh yes, just walking. I mean, it's almost like a wine steward. It's like a maitre d' walking the business, not hiding up there waiting till we get hit. You all check in and check out at the same time. It's really allowing that person, and they're going to grow with their confidence. I can tell you that any young lady that has to knock on the door, meaning she's got to walk up to every chair with this iPad, do the speech, do the dialogue, do the script, and communicate, she's going to become unstoppable. And it's going to force strength for the hairdressers too, because they can't hide away from it. This girl's going to be walking around.
You know what Sonia said to me yesterday that I thought was so cool is it's created another metric in her business.
Good.
She was
Those who do, those who don't.
She told me a story about a day where she was out of the salon and for most of the day and came back in the evening while the salon was still working, and she noticed that their future reservation rate was, I think, only at 70% for the day, and that's markedly low. And so she went out and started talking to her stylists that were there and said, how did this go? How did that go? Just started asking questions, found out that because Sonia wasn't there, her service providers or her front desk people weren't filling the concierge role that day.
Oh.
And she knew it by looking at that number. 70% is too low for them to have been out there. She confirmed what her intuition was, and then was able to talk to the people working service desk.
Well, it's so funny because I really think that there's people. I mean, I was raised at a whole different time, and I know that. I mean, if I ever sat down in a restaurant, oh my gosh, you don't sit down with a guest. You're the employee. You never sit down. You don't eat in a room where guests are, and you don't finish a conversation if guests walk in. It's immediate. Stop this. Go to this. And I walked into a very high-end salon just recently, and you know what I'm referring to. And there were two young ladies sitting at the front desk, and they were on stools that they were too high. The stools were too high, and they looked uncomfortable, like sitting at a bar without a bar. And it was just awkward. And they finished their conversation, allowed me to stand there for a moment. And then when they looked at me, I said hello first.
Mm-hmm.
And how can that be? You never can ask your guests to have more energy and more manners in your business than you do, right? And I was shocked by that,
mm-hmm.
because when we were growing up, that would have been something that everyone knew. Now it's okay. And someone just wrote a message to me saying, Terry, do you remember when we were allowed to wear trousers for the first time in school? And I think I was in 5th grade when girls were allowed to wear pants. And we've talked about church where every woman had to have a hat on, mm-hmm. or a doily like
and if they didn't, they put a doily on.
Yeah, or a piece of tissue, Kleenex,
yeah.
Right? There were times when you dressed to be on an airplane. Now I see people get on an airplane and I think, are you serious right now? I can't believe you have that on. Or people don't even shower to get on an airplane or smell like booze getting on an airplane. That wouldn't happen the first time I took a flight. We were in our Sunday best to go there and fly home, and in our Easter shoes and everything. So what has happened? Why is lack of polished service or polished way? You know, Emma said something last night, and I said, we don't say that in our home. She goes, you don't say anything. Mm-hmm. And I said, I'm not going to support unladylike. I said, I've never said that word in my life, mm-hmm. right? But we're raising people that are exposed to that kind of sloppy, casual. Who cares? That's not a bad word. Yeah, it is. It sounds ugly on a lady.
You know what's funny is sometimes in our PSC nets or Salon inks, we talk about the greeting and a professional greeting, and we talk about what's not a professional greeting.
Hey.
I was in a top-end salon recently and absolutely heard that, and it stopped me in my tracks. Stylist looked out to a guest and said, "Hey," and I thought, "Oh my God, I
It's
can't."
happening.
I thought it was kind of stage magic that when I would say that's not a greeting, but it really does happen in salons. So listen, I mean, I think the one thing that's important here when it says shock the customer is that a great business has a sound to it.
But it's by design. It's not.
And it's
by accident.
always by design. Always. If it's by accident, it can't be duplicated. It can't be repeated. It's not gonna pass amongst a team of 5 or 10 or 20 people.
But they're more committed to how they look on Musically. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, that's a little young for this group.
Or I don't care. They're more concerned about how they're going to look on Snapchat,
Instagram, Snapchat.
okay, than they are in their profession. A selfie of how they look in a selfie is more important than how a customer perceives their service. That's a problem. And we've got our priorities not in the right place when it comes to service. You know, you look at dispensary versus color bar. You've got people that are still hiding in the back with their dispensaries, and it's a signature service. It's a color menu. It's a processing menu. People want to see you celebrate your craft.
Even dialogue. What sounds good about a dispensary?
Nothing.
There's nothing that sounds good about a dispensary.
They don't even
Or
say
dispense.
dispensary. Dispense. Yeah.
Color bar. It's where we celebrate color.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds different. Our dialogue sounds different.
And it's probably, sometimes I hear, you know, hairdressers love being creative with color. I mean, they don't want to do a touch-up, really. They want to be creative. Then act like it. So you look at cutting versus salon collection. What's your collection? Are you looking at everything? The gallery in Springfield, Illinois, there's 6 or 8 core cuts, and one of them is Victoria's Secret. It's my favorite story.
It cracks me up.
You all right?
I couldn't believe when she said that.
Yes, and so she had a customer that was in California on business for an extended time, and she went into a salon and asked for the Victoria's Secret cut, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they
I
said,
had no idea.
we don't know what you're talking about. That's because it was their cutting collection at the gallery.
Right.
The guest asked for it, and of course it couldn't be honored.
Well, and it's
But
proof.
look at how they train their customers.
Exactly. It's proof that we train our guests how to be a guest in our business. There's no question about it. And so it doesn't matter what your competition is doing. What matters is how you train a guest to be a guest in your business. And it starts with the dialogue used and the footsteps of success and escorting a guest through that service experience throughout. How we talk about the color bar. I mean, sometimes I was just in a conversation earlier about color bar and some of the processes of color bar. And that person said to me, you know, it's a little slow, it's a little repetitive or duplicate, maybe not as efficient as it could be. I'm not sure if I like it. Well, here's the thing.
Doesn't matter.
Do you think that tableside preparation of food is slower than preparing it in the kitchen? This great Caesar salad with the presentation. Is that slower than just somebody bringing out a plate with Caesar salad on it? Yes. But would you pay more for the tableside preparation? Would you have more to comment on during and after that? Would you feel like you got a better, fresher Caesar salad as a result of tableside preparation? It's the same thing. Yes, it might take a little more time, but it's also what allows you to be at a different level of performance and price.
And is it worth it?
Yeah, is it worth it?
So
And does the guest say it's worth it?
Well, you look at a style versus style bar or style house or style collection. Who's I on the phone with? I'm trying to think. Oh, Brooke. So Brooke said she went into Chicago and there's a makeup line. Oh, I forget the name of it now. And she said, have you heard of it? And she said, no. She goes, well, I didn't either. And I sat down and spent $350. And she said, I sat down and they had behind the makeup artist one model, this many looks, whether it was evening or day to night or smoky eye, and you could pick what you wanted. And they were very equipped in being able to say, if you are trying to accomplish this, we can help you. Can a salon do that? If you're trying to accomplish this, we can help you. And that one haircut that can accomplish this many looks. Men's welcome. Men are welcome in the salon versus a men's dedicated area, right? A dedicated area. And it's going to have to be key in the future.
Well, absolutely. It was optional before, but if we want to keep men in the salon, we have to have a dedicated area for them. It's definitely the direction it's going.
We have a salon that is our salon in the Quad Cities. It's called Bella. And she just expanded, and now there's a part of her business that's called Bello. So there's Bella and Bello.
And of course, Bella is
for the women.
Beauty is a beautiful woman, and Bello is a handsome man.
How about it? That's so good.
How about
So
that?
excited. And so they're moving into their new location. Congratulations. So casual dialogue versus polished dialogue.
Whoa.
Wow, I'm having a time talking. I sound like I'm
Polished dialogue.
Man, I sound like I'm gassed up here. So, when you look at casual dialogue of saying just the minimum or saying only what's necessary versus I'm going to be polished and take that extra time to make sure that it looks right. And shock the customer. There could be days we're open versus we're creating theme days. I talk about my little skincare place that I get my waxing done, but every Wednesday their hair is all slicked back and they all have red lipstick on. I've only seen them that way because I'm only there on Wednesdays. I don't even know how they look any other day. But I like that.
Yeah.
And they've trained me that Wednesdays are going to be red lipstick. Right?
Do you wear red lipstick?
No, I do not.
Do you pull your hair back?
No.
No? Okay.
But they do.
But you know what? If you're not comfortable with the dialogue, shock the customer. Think about surprise and delight. Surprise and delight. It's the same thing. It's just said in a different way.
See at the window.
See at the window.
I love that stuff. And some say it better than others, right? I was thinking about how most businesses still don't know how to say pull around in a nice way. And see you at the window is really good.
Mm-hmm.
And they sat around the table. I wonder how many hours, and came up with see you at the window. How we're gonna be different.
Well, and they mean it, because when you get there, they have a personality. They interact with you.
Oh yeah, God bless you sometimes.
And at
Where we
Starbucks, they see you at the window. They really do see you, and they know you.
And they talk to you.
Yeah.
Hi, how are you? And they really stay with this guest. They don't kind of look at the other cars. McDonald's faces sideways. They take your money sideways. They give you your food
They're facing
sideways.
their register.
They're facing the register. Starbucks faces their customer. And it's different. Let's talk about talent is everything. If you're going to pull this off, you better be hiring for personality, and you better bring some personality tomorrow. You know, I love I'm watching The Good Doctor now, and I always enjoyed ER and Grey's Anatomy, and I've enjoyed those shows, but especially love when they're in their teaching mode, when they're developing the residents. And I think that a teaching hospital or a teaching salon, everyone knows in a teaching hospital that when your doctor's in, they may have others with them, because we're developing talent. We're all committed to medicine, and we're committed to the customer's experience in the hospital to be the best ever. Are we a teaching salon? Talent is everything, and we can't let up on this. And it's okay if our customers say, wow, you always has someone here that you're developing. Absolutely. That's what we're doing. And we're going to really see some different kind of coaching styles with the March Madness starting. I love that. Yesterday we saw some things that were exciting.
I think what was interesting about the difference yesterday, there were 16 basketball games played in the NCAA tournament. And this morning, they were talking about two of those games.
Mm-hmm.
Two of those games
Buffalo,
out of
right?
16. Buffalo upsetting Arizona.
Right.
And you had Loyola of Chicago upsetting Miami. And I thought that was so interesting, because even out of the most prolific day in college basketball or today and yesterday, it's still, what is it that stood out? There's no way Buffalo should have won that game.
The comebacks, the effort.
But they did.
Mm-hmm.
And they did.
And it was close for just back
Always
and forth
close
for
at
a
the
long
half.
time.
It
Yeah.
was very close to the half, and it turned into a 21-point game.
And then all of a sudden they took off. I remember looking up thinking, I can't believe it's 74-60. How'd that happen?
Yeah. And so, what does that mean to us? I think, okay, would anybody doubt or question that Arizona was had more talent than Buffalo? I only watched the first little part of the game, and I thought there's no way that Buffalo can compete because Arizona was so big, and they had 2 7-footers, and they were athletic, and blah blah blah. Well, the fact of the matter is they weren't prepared. They didn't see their opponent as a worthy opponent, and they didn't play as if they were playing a worthy opponent. They came off unprepared, disheveled, an unwillingness to defend, and it cost them the game. So what does that mean to a Salon? When do we not view a Wednesday as worthy? When do we not view a Friday as worthy? But a Thursday night, boy, we know that's game time. And that's not fair to the guest.
Mm-hmm.
When do we come off as disheveled? When do we come off as an unwillingness to X, Y, and Z, an unwillingness to talk about take home, an unwillingness to upsell the menu?
Well, that's why salon hours are so key, because when you've got a salon of 10 stations, you've got 2 people working. It doesn't look like you're all in. Right? It looks like, oh, okay, well, God bless us. Yeah, it's quiet in here. Yeah, it's quiet. But I want action. I want to feel that energy in the business. And that's a big deal. Okay. So research the wow. You got to find places that really do this best. What are the places that really come in and say, even the greeting, we're going to make improvements on? And where is it that people are doing well? Does the check-in process need to be automated now with technology, so you just walk in and you can put your name in? Maybe. It could be that, I see that you're here, thank you, I'll announce that you've arrived. I don't know what they are, but I can tell you, hey, is not enough, right?
Well, and it's interesting. We haven't talked much about this, Terry, but I saw a short clip on a hospital in Lansing, Michigan. I believe it's called the Henry Ford Hospital. And they hired a former CEO of the Ritz-Carlton. And their intent was to accentuate the hospitality part of the hospital. Excuse me. So the only change that this CEO made was everything that had to do with hospitality, making it more comfortable for the patient, making it more comfortable for the staff that works there, making it more comfortable and hospitable to the visitors that had family members in that hospital. And the turnaround in that hospital is absolutely remarkable. People actually, there's a 4-star restaurant on site at this hospital, and people go there to eat and dine when they don't even have anybody in the hospital. And so,
well, hospital food, come on.
Well, yeah, it's not hospital food. I mean, this guy came from the Ritz-Carlton. And so you think and say, okay, that's a nice story, but what does that mean? It means that there's room for you to think differently in the professional salon industry and win. We have to think differently. We have to think from start at the guest and work backwards to the business. What is your guest requesting right now? How do we celebrate that? How do we market to that? How do we establish different? I love Sally Hogshead, who wrote the book Fascinate. She says that better is better than good, but different is better than better. And I know that's kind of a mouthful, but I think it's really true. It's no different than what Van Council says when he talks about Seth Godin's purple cow. You drive past a field of cows, you wouldn't even recognize it. But if you drove past a field of cows that had a purple cow out there, you'd have to recognize it. Well, it's the same thing. Different is better than better. Everybody's trying to be better in the salon business. How can we do this just a little bit better? Incremental growth. What we need is that surprise and delight, that difference. Different is better than better. How do we make a difference? I think the concierge program that we talked about is different. A men's department is different. Bello versus Bella. There are ways.
Service amenities are different. And
there's so much yet to be accomplished. We are not done. We're not done by any stretch of the imagination creating change in the professional salon industry. We can't get distracted by things. We have to go forward with what's possible. Think about it from the guest standpoint.
Well, and I think sometimes we think that we have to up our game by saying, okay, let's offer jewelry,
Yeah.
right? And that's not it. I mean, you can do that if it's going to complement your business. Certainly, you can extend that as an offering. But we're talking about the guest interaction from the time they get there to the time they leave, and those incremental changes will be lasting memories for the guest.
I want to go back. Of course, I can't go back to the post I had because it's gone now.
But you look at the amenities that you're offering, whether it's self-serve, beverage area, maybe you have biscottis that are wrapped because it is a hair environment, or you have things that are individually wrapped. So a guest could either enjoy it right then and throw it away and they haven't been exposed to any hair, or they could put it in their purse. But the point is, what are your amenities? What is the process of putting a gown like? How have you made that special or different than anybody else?
I think that the post that I wanted to share with you is something that was on Facebook that I shared, and it said, your worth is not measured in likes, comments, notes, or followers, but in your ability to love, keep comments to yourself, take note, and lead. And I think about that from a salon standpoint.
Just show that.
And certainly,
that's nice.
Certainly, what I love about that is you can take any segment of that and build a staff meeting. Any segment of that. What is social media?
Well, what was I saying last night? I said, what are you doing? She goes, I'm working on my streaks.
Yeah, they're streaks.
I don't know what streak. I said, what's a streak? Mom, it's a streak. You're too old. Do you know what a streak is, Brian? Well, what is a streak?
A streak is the number of consecutive days that you shared a snap with a friend.
Okay, good for them.
So it's like they talked 50 days
Okay,
in a
so
row.
what are your streaks in the salon as far as consecutive days that you wowed a customer?
That's right.
Right?
Or consecutive times you wowed that same customer.
Yeah, I
Isn't
am
that important?
too old for streaks.
We all know that.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so what are they? Your amenities, whatever, whenever. Remember when you said different is better? The first time we were at a W hotel and you called down and you rang the phone and they didn't say, hello, front desk, how can we help you? They said, whatever, whenever, whatever you want, whenever you want. They chose.
And they meant it. And the next time you called, they said, how can we enhance your stay? It's different than just hello.
Yeah, they decided. They sat around and said, how are we going to make it powerful? The clothes, places that make this a trademark.
Yeah. Or more importantly than a trademark, a love mark.
Okay, I like that too. Service from the heart. It requires anticipation. You've got to anticipate where are we going to go with this, and the anticipation of knowing what the guest needs. I love it. It's the credo of the Ritz-Carlton to be able to
meet or exceed the needs of our guests,
whether spoken or unspoken. Meet or exceed the expectations, whether spoken or unspoken. So whether it's taking that coffee or refilling or making them more comfortable or finding ways to meet or exceed. What am I looking for?
See, most businesses are trying to figure out how to meet the needs that are spoken, the obvious needs. Getting food to the table and it's still hot.
Just like that lady we talked about when I said to her, hey, I'm looking for this in the store. She said, what we have is what's out on the, and I wanted to poke her in the eyes, right?
So imagine the difference. Meet or exceed the needs of our guests, whether spoken.
And if someone would have taught her that, maybe she would have said, let me join you.
Sure, let's look together.
Let's look together. Let's see what we can find. And if we don't have that, let's find something great. Right? She missed it. So what's the scan factor? What are the skillful eyes? And then this is a great staff meeting too. What are the eyes necessary to make a difference? Magic service. What are the ears that are necessary? What is our listening skills to be like? Skillful hands. We kind of have an idea, but how are we going to guide the guests through the experience? Skillful heart and skillful words. And it's a big deal. And if you don't have these, it's going to be absolutely obvious. When we look at the difference between good and great, I heard this from a coach just recently, and this is good. And I have to tell you a funny story about Cheryl and I. Did I tell you this already? Okay. First of all, the difference between good and great is good gets tired. Great never gets tired. So I called Cheryl, my best friend, and I said, oh my gosh, I just heard this coach, and I was so excited because he said the difference between good and great, and I was on the edge of my seat saying, what's he going to say? And he said, good gets tired. Great never gets tired. She goes, well, I guess great is off my resume. And we kind of laughed about it because we say we're tired every day. It's kind of what we say. But great kicks good's tail when they get tired.
Mm-hmm.
So great, even in March Madness and taking a look at this championship this season, it's probably going to be the ones that don't get tired that are going to win, right? And what they talk about is, and this is so key, a coach needs to work on perfecting the art, the gift, the talent. The player masters effort and energy so they can't get tired, right? They have to do that every day. So they're not tired, they're ready, they're focused, they're able. But the coach is working on the art, the gift, the game, the playbook. But if you've got a staff that is tired, or I don't want to take a walk in, or is this all there is? You're going to get your tail kicked over and over again by another salon that's decided they're going to be full out and not be tired, right? And I'm sure you see that even in the school.
Oh yeah.
Even at Visible Changes, when we were there for their event, you saw people on their feet for 8 hours cheering their teammates on. And then you saw the people that decided to sit. They got tired. They had to sit down.
And the people that were on their feet for nothing more than bragging rights.
Yes. And or hoping that when they get up there, someone will be on their feet for them too.
Sure.
But the people sitting knew that they'd never be up there. And the people sitting didn't realize how much they needed that energy to be put in their blood, right? And you see it at the school where you get future professionals that are tired.
Yeah. It's so funny because thinking that people will see the things that you see as a leader in your business, you can't take that for granted. You have to teach your people how to see. When Terry talked about the scan factor items, those don't just think that everybody sees what you see
or hears what you hear.
Right.
Yeah. I walked in yesterday and picked up garbage. And I say this all the time, but I picked up a handful of garbage. And then I said, we need to give it some attention out there. I picked up the big pieces. But how many employees walked in the building before me and never saw them? Same garbage, same parking lot.
Well, and one of the things I said to our group yesterday is that sanitation falls apart first in the shadows and the corners of a business and then takes over the business. And so somebody's got to be looking. So, and I said, right now, we're weak in the shadows and the corners. We can't let it spread. And then we said, okay, what are other areas that we're weak? We're also weak in our what's called an SMA, which is preparing your station for a guest in advance. Some are really good at it, some aren't. You can't let some of those disciplines. There are kind of rite of passage things that have to be in place. As a professional, your station needs to look in a certain way. Your tools need to look in a certain way. The products that are on your station need to look in a certain way. Even right down to the cords. The number of stations in the business today where the cords are so
all wrapped up,
disheveled. And it's just, as John Paul says, successful people do all the things that unsuccessful people aren't willing to do. You've got to be willing to take a look, take a step back. Vivian McKinder says that most professionals stand too close to their work. And I think of that physically and metaphorically. Physically, she means that they stand too close to their work, that they need to step back and look at the shape that they've created. They need to know when to stop cutting.
Well, too many leaders stand too close to their business and can't critique it.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
That's the metaphoric part, to step back and really look at it through a guest's eyes. Look at it through your staff's eyes.
So when there's staff meetings and we're talking about what minor improvements can we make this year, or what big improvements can we make this year, most of the time, because it's intangible at the moment or in the moment, we don't give it any attention. We'll talk about dress code for an hour,
Mm-hmm.
which should be protected, not discussed, right? And that doesn't happen, which is amazing to me, that we could get off on such a topic of the difference between good and great. Sometimes the difference between a good and great salon is just their staff meetings and how we got to get everyone on the same page. The amount of owners have said, well, I've got to get staff to adopt this idea, or I've got to get staff engagement, or I've got to get staff, or I'm hoping they'll get it, versus saying, hey, we're moving in this direction. Keep up or get out,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I'm looking at this from a standpoint of, if it's going to make the boat go faster, if it's going to make the salon operate in a richer way, because it's all about creating a repeat customer. When we talk about service magic, it's because we want to lock that guest in to our location. We want to lock them in. And most businesses, whether it was bundt cake or whether it's going to that Home Goods that day, they've forgotten their priorities. Obviously, when that lady walked in that day, they said, stock the shelves. Your job today is to stock the shelves. So when a guest asks you a question, you only think about stocking the shelf, not helping a guest serve. They should have said, now you're going to serve all day long, and while you're serving, you will be stocking the shelves, right? There's a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And so you could say to an assistant, you're going to do shampoos all day. And if a guest says, where's the powder room? Right there, second door on the left, because I'm concentrating on shampoos all day. You can lose sight of how you're serving, even in silence.
Mm-hmm.
So we're done. So do we have any questions that we can open mic it or anything? Nothing? Okay. I think we're good, unless you want to talk about something else.
No, I think we're good.
I think we are too. We will see you next month. Same time, same bat station. We're going to be right here on Fridays, and we hope you enjoy this segment. Let us know your thoughts.
Have a terrific month.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Bye.